It looks like we have everyone joining in. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Where's everyone calling in from? Feel free to comment in the chat or turn on your camera or sound and comment where you're calling in from. We're super excited to have you join us today. Bay Area, California, nice. Thanks for coming, Safik. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Indonesia, wow, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you all here. And again, for those who are just joining in, we're just sharing where everyone's calling in from. We really are thankful to have you here and join us for our expert talk today. We're really excited to have Merve here with us, as well as Mo. So thank you so much for joining us. And also, just while we're having more people join us, make sure you stay connected. Follow us on all of our social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, WeChat. We really post all of our exciting events, quotes from our experts and things like that on all of our social media channels. You do not want to miss out on any upcoming events and exciting things happening at RMDS as well as with our experts. So make sure you follow us there, and we will be posting pretty much every day of new and exciting things happening with the company. All righty, we are going to get started here. Again, follow us on all social media channels. We really want to stay connected with you all. Before we get started, I want to let you know, make sure you leave all your questions, comments in the chat box so that we can have Merve answer them at the end and throughout the webinar. So please leave your questions in the chat box. I'm very excited to be a part of this evening as well. My name is Christy. Just to introduce myself, I'm part of the business development and sales team here at RMDS Lab. Very excited to be with you today. We are so excited to have you all here to enjoy Merve Hickok's AI ethics and how it impacts you. This webinar will take on the style popular to ask me anything format, which means the audience engagement will be a huge part of this event. You'll have the opportunity to ask the speaker questions on views on how AI impacts social justice. Is there any regulation in sight? Her professional career path. Are there any AI red lines, advice on your own projects and AI questions? And whatever topics interest you, whatever you want to ask Merve. RMDS Lab, just to introduce us a little bit, is a data science company that specializes in helping researchers and data scientists worldwide to excel in a new era of big data and cognitive computing. And if you're not already a member, we want you to join our ecosystem today. RMDS Lab was founded in 2009 by IBM Chief Data Scientist Alex Liu, and we are headquartered in Pasadena, California, with our partners worldwide. We serve more than 40,000 members and affiliates across the world. Now, without further ado, I will leave it to our speakers to introduce themselves, but we have Mo Chen. He's a valuation consultant here at RMDS Lab, and our expert, Merve Hickok. She's the founder of AIethicist.org, and I will have them both introduce themselves. We are so thankful to have both of them here to speak with you guys, and thank you so much, Merve, for being our expert for this evening. We are so grateful to have you.
Thanks, Christy. I think I will take first. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here today. My name is Mo Chen. You can just call me Mo. I joined RMDS as an evaluation consultant in August 2019. So I've been here with RMDS for almost like 2 years, a little bit less than 2 years. Since then, I have been involved in multiple projects, like super cool projects at RMDS, including the COVID-19 project. I've also been involved in developing a few spatial data science courses. And right now, I'm the project lead of the Impact Score project, which aims at developing and improving the algorithm and user experience of the Impact Score system. If you get a chance to sign up on our GRMDS platform, you should be able to see there's an Impact Score component in your profile page. I got my PhD degree in environmental engineering and a Master of Science degree in computer science from University of Southern California. In general, I'm just interested in utilizing real-world data to solve real-world problems. And again, yeah, I'm super excited to be here today.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Crystal. And I'm super excited to be here myself. My name is Mary Hickok. I'm the founder of AIethicist.org. I'm also a senior research director at Center for AI and Digital Policy. Obviously, an instructor and a partner to our MDS labs for more than 2 years now, just starting another chapter. I'm also a lecturer at University of Michigan teaching data ethics at the Masters of Applied Data Science program. I'm really excited to be here.
All right, I guess we can just get started with other questions. And as Christy has mentioned, today's event is supposed to be an Ask Me Anything format. So highly recommend everyone just put whatever questions related to today's theme in the chat box, so we can just kind of be as interactive as possible. We did collect a question list from our friends and people all around the internet who submitted the questions to us beforehand. So we can probably go down the question list first, and if anyone asks a question in the chat box in the middle, we can always kind of like jump between. So the first question is kind of from more of the big picture level. So Murphy, what do you think are some of the biggest ethical challenges data scientists face today?
I think having the right data, the right data set is one of the biggest challenges. A lot of the times when we're faced with an issue and we're supposed to solve an issue, we ideally would want to collect your data for your problem, for your particular problem, and for your particular context. But it's almost impossible to find that unless you have serious resources and time and can invest in that. So what happens is you try to find data sets or data that is already available or has been collected for some other purpose and kind of repurposing that. So the relevancy, representativeness, accuracy of data becomes a very critical issue. How do you obviously we talk a lot about bias in data, bias embedded in the data due to what you decided to collect, how you decided to collect it, what you left out, what you didn't left out, and what are some of the historical and societal or structural injustices embedded in that data. So just understanding that and trying to use solve your problem at the same time is probably one of the biggest pressures and ethical challenges for data scientists. And I think also on one end, respecting the privacy of data subjects, if you're looking at data related to humans or society or groups, and also having a control over how your data is or how your analysis is going to be used. You might be given this problem. Okay, go ahead, solve it. You've done your best. You've followed all ethical questioning, and you've done your best. But a lot of the times, you also don't have, especially if you're a relatively junior, you don't have control over how that's going to be used. And just trying to figure out how to relate to that. And then one last thing that comes to my mind is related to the data that has been generated during COVID and still is being generated. I asked this question more than a year ago now. How our data scientists or analysts are using the data that is being generated during COVID, and the impact of that on the data as well as the trends. What do you do with the peaks or the bottoms of the data because COVID has hit whatever particular context that you're working on? Do you embed that? Do you take that within your data set? Do you isolate that? How do you trend your data when you're looking at a longer period of time? I think those are still valid questions. You're still going through that. And I don't think we still have proper answers, especially for that piece.
Yeah, thanks, Verdi. Yeah, especially when you mentioned the challenges that the junior data scientists face, I totally feel that as a junior person here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, thanks for the answer. So actually connecting to that, so this is my personal pick. I'm actually going to like swap around the question order since seems like you have the power here. So how can young data scientists prepare for ethical challenges they could face in the world today?
I think the best practice, how we always say when you have an idea or you have a problem that you want to solve, that you need to do analysis, or in other cases create an algorithm for it. Not jumping right into it immediately is probably the best practice I can suggest, like right off the start. Understanding the context of the problem you're trying to solve or analyze before you even start collecting or looking for data. It's a bit different when you're talking about like manufacturing, automation, etc. But when you're talking about any question, any problem that is relevant to humans, to society, our interactions with institutions, there's a good chance that that issue has been around for a good period of time, and there has been probably different solutions that has been tried before. So just understanding the context of the problem, what has been tried before, why it didn't work, were there some stuff that actually did work, but overall it didn't move forward. Who are the players, who are the stakeholders, who are the people impacted with this problem? Just understanding that, like setting the context, understanding the history is the most crucial thing that you can do to prepare for the ethical challenges, because you once you do that, you prepare yourself pretty good to the politics of the question, who might benefit, who might be burdened by it. You can foresee some of the ethical challenges that might arise from this issue, etc. So just understanding that is probably the best thing. Another thing is, once you go through that phase or process, and you have your data, or you're starting to collect data, or you decided to use a certain data set, being very careful about the data provenance and data documentation is also very crucial. What did you do with your data? How did you process it? Have you made any changes to it? Is your data, how are you collecting that data, and how is it changing throughout your analysis, or might change throughout your analysis? How that might be used in another as an input to another system? Kind of having that whole provenance and documentation is crucial, because this is never a one-off thing, right? You don't do like an analysis and say, okay, I'm done with it, like move on to the next thing. It will come back, and there's a really good chance that it will be a living project as well. So having the proper documentations of those decisions is also crucial.
Yeah, thanks for the answer. So next question is more related to like a case in the real world. So the question is, what is the best way for data scientists to communicate with a client if they are facing ethical challenges? So if I can extend this question a little bit, suppose that the client asks for something from the data scientist or for like consulting purposes, and such request is not ethical in some ways, and then how did you communicate with a client in that case?
That is a very relevant question, and I think that's one that regardless of how amazing an organization that you're working in, you will eventually. It's not a question of if, it's more when you're going to come across that challenge. I would say starting with value alignment first, and going through how if you're an independent contractor or if you're working for an organization, how does the values of that organization or the client match up with yours or the organization that you're representing against the client? Are you looking to get a mutually acceptable solution is the first thing. And I would also say, best way of communication if you're the data scientist is kind of having an exploratory, like a discovery conversation with the client as well. What is it that you want to do? Why do you want to do it? What are the outcomes that you're looking for? What are we trying to achieve here? And just understanding where they're coming from and where they want to be with their suggestions. I had a lot of personal experiences around this where the client wasn't even thinking of some of the ethical issues. They hadn't thought through the whole thing to its like logical conclusion. They were just focused in one area. But once I understood where they were coming from and why they were suggesting something, look, actually, this is not, this might lead to some other issues. This might open up some other risks for your company, for your product, etc. Just being honest with the client, with the pros and cons, is crucial. Like I said, a lot of the time, it's that exploratory discovery conversation that you have with the client that solves most of the issues. But I will say that you also have to prepare. You have to be prepared to walk away sometimes as well. It's yes, we all want to do amazing things in our world, and we have bills to pay, but there is a limit. I think for everyone, it might be a different threshold, but just having that readiness or preparedness to walk away is important. Knowing where your own personal limit is.
Yeah, thanks. I really like the point that I totally understand as for some of the clients, they're not the expert, right? Like we are the experts. So they sometimes, it's not like they're really requesting something bad in purpose. They sometimes they don't even realize that there's actually ethical issue within their request. So probably want to educate them first, and then, but definitely be prepared to
sometimes they're so focused on the issue at hand for their own organization or for that particular product, and getting bogged down in details and not looking at the bigger picture. I cannot even tell you how many times I had this conversation where at the end we're like, okay, you have that aha moment with the client, and just giving them the benefit of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but thanks for the reminder from Murray that to all the junior or newbies in this room, just be prepared to bail yourself out in such situations. Like you should be the person in this room that you know exactly what you're doing, where you are, and what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do. So next question is actually is more of a career path question related to Murphy yourself. What inspired you to found the AI ethicist.org?
Frustration. So, what happened was, like, a number of years ago when I started first looking into some of the AI bias and AI ethics issues, I was reading a lot of research reports, and there weren't this many publications coming out at that point, but there were still this mix of legitimate academic research or case studies, etc., versus a lot of PR stuff, a lot of like marketing stuff. So I was looking at different things, and it was just focused on one perspective, one company's perspective or their business model, etc. And I kept going down this. I say this all the time. I kept going down the rabbit holes, and I was really frustrated as someone coming into this field, trying to understand like the different perspectives and 360 of these conversations from different stakeholders, not finding that. And I was looking at things like I said, AI ethics, bias, explainabilities, some of the national AI strategies. There were only a handful back then. A lot of the principles coming out and how they were comparing against each other. Some of the organizations that were being established, and what do they do? Kind of understanding the landscape, etc. So I thought, okay, if I'm having this issue, probably I'm not the only one. So how about I create a platform that is with curated content that focused on these areas that I just mentioned, that anyone coming into this field, whether you are coming from a non-technical background or you're a researcher, that I can help you with this curated repository. And one thing I wanted to do through that is there are a lot of work in the repository that I have read in depth. There are stuff that I skimmed over and thought that would be helpful. What I wanted to keep away was having very technical, like heavy technical research papers in there, because one of my work, like a lot of my focus is raising awareness and advocating. And when you start talking about AI and algorithms, etc., that tends to intimidate people who are just coming into the field. So I wanted to have things that were not too technical, but still got to the bottom of the issues as well. And I also put a lot of my, like this webinar, a lot of my podcasts, my own articles, webinars, conference presentations on the site as well, just to give that more accessible, quicker explanations and information.
Yeah, I can see that it's a lot of effort, and thanks for doing that, actually. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I constantly update that as well, so I think at least once a month or so I update it. So if anyone on the call or watching this later thinks that there is a major work that I missed, feel free to email me later.
Yeah. Okay, I guess next question I'm very interested in seeing your answer comments is, so this one is related to the education in AI. So, I mean, as a computer science student, back in school, I took one AI classes, more like at the foundation level. But I can still remember that one, like 80% or probably 90% of it is related to the, all the technical details or everything. and probably only like 10 minutes in one lecture, like touch the very surface of AI ethics. So what do you think, like in the future, we should include? What kind of knowledge or like courses you think we should include in the university education about like ethics in AI?
I think at this point, we had a number of really like high level cases that surfaced in the newspapers and the news, through some investigative journalism or some scandals like the A levels in the UK, that we understand that this is an issue. And this is an issue that is not going to be solved by one single discipline, either be that ethics, philosophy, or sociology, or computer science, or engineers, etc. It really, really needs interdisciplinary approach, interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach, whether we're talking about school, like at college level, or whether you're in a company working on a product development or product improvement, it's the same thing. So I think definitely starting with the computer science and data science class degrees, and starting to embed that multidisciplinary ethics classes in that, but also you don't, flipping the coin and adding some technology classes to the disciplines like philosophy or sociology, anthropology, or like international relations and policy class degrees, etc. This is not a like, okay, data scientists are doing this or computer scientists are doing this, etc. A lot of the things are coming from that very siloed education system. So across all disciplines, I think we need to find ways to integrate and embed ethics, impact of technology, social justice, and provide the students with the tools to ask these questions, with the frameworks and the toolkits to ask these questions when they graduate and go to work. So they're not like, you show up at your new work, you're faced with these ethical challenges and you don't even know, like, have the language to ask these questions or the tools to ask these questions. So I think it goes across multiple disciplines. But I also want to say here, I think stepping away from that, this only focus on professional life and using AI ethics or data ethics only in the professional part of your life is also biased, because AI systems and like the data collection, the ubiquitous data collection in our lives, and the AI systems are impacting our lives 24/7. So it's not only your professional life that is being impacted, but also what you do as your fitness trackers tracking you, what your car is providing, what are some of the appliances in your house are collecting and sharing, and what happens with that, etc. So it's a personal thing as well that we need to be aware of.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Seems like we got a question from the audience, so I will probably prioritize that. So this is the non-technical question. What is the one piece of advice you wish you could give to yourself when you were in the beginning of your career?
I'm thinking which career, to be honest, right? Because I currently, I have my independent consultancy and training, and I wear multiple hats with the Policy Center and University of Michigan, etc. But I started my career in a financial institution. So I moved from a German bank to Merrill Lynch, to Bank of America Merrill Lynch, to Marriott, across, like, I was VP of HR and then moved to sales. I was wearing multiple hats. And what helped me, and I didn't have a mentor. I think that would be one thing that I would advise myself if I could go back. When I was starting my professional career coming out of university, a lot of the things that happened were out of luck. And after that, it was out of my, senior management believing in me, in my work ethic, my curiosity, the way that I'd done things, that they kept moving me to fix things, to build things across different departments. But I wish I had a mentor that I could ask questions about the industry, where to start, what are the best ways to do, what are the best things to do when you're going into a particular job. I really feel that. I mean, it worked out at the end, but I think it could have saved me a number of years at the very beginning. I could have been more focused.
Yeah, totally. I totally feel your advice as a junior. Again, as a junior data science guy, sometimes it's kind of hard at a career level, especially in a work environment, to find someone who can mentor you, who can be honest with you about all the obstacles they have been went through. I think that's a really important element.
And you know how it came about, Mo? If I can take another minute here.
Yeah.
At some point, I was asked to be a mentor to a new graduate, and I was like, of course, I'll do that. But it also flipped a light bulb in my head. It's like, I need a mentor too. What I was gonna say is, don't wait for formal mentorship programs in the organization. They depending on the maturity of organization, you might not have that. If there are people that you respect, how they work, their knowledge, their the way that they work, etc. Always ask the question. I asked the question. I've never been in a formal mentoring program, but I had some amazing people that I approached, and it's like, hey, can you mentor me, or can I be your mentee for this? And if you ask the question, a lot of the times the answer is going to be positive.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Okay, so next one is a very interesting one. It's a very hot topic, though. The question itself is, how do we protect AI from hackers? I understand it's a very, general question to a lot of people, but I assume this is also related to a lot of the events that happened recently, like the oil system taxes and so on. So I think it'll be interesting to hear you from more from your perspective, because different people can answer this question from different perspective.
I would answer this question both from a cybersecurity perspective, but also from a bias perspective. What happens when your model when you have an adversarial attack and your model performance is impacted, and you have that shift that you're not aware of, and especially that's problematic with opaque systems, black box systems, that to start with, you don't know exactly how the system is working, and then move forward, or fast forward, you have an adversarial attack, you still don't know or have the best ways to understand what's happening. So I would say, my suggestion would be, in terms of protecting from hackers or adversarial attacks, is obviously adapting the best practices in privacy and security. Having the latest and most updated security best practices embedded in your system, in your organization, in your cybersecurity infrastructure. Also, using the same thing, using the same methodology for privacy. If you don't collect data, like if you don't collect, don't let me rephrase that. If you don't collect personal data or data that can be maliciously used, if it was hacked or breached, then you don't have an issue with being hacked for your data to start with. It's like if you collect your data only for your own purpose and not all the data that you can possibly get, then you have to secure it, etc. That's the good practice to start with. But also in terms of the monitoring systems for model performance, when you're building your systems, having those monitoring systems and feedback systems and accountability structures is also crucial. When you have your performance, your performance levels, when you put your system out live, and then if you have those governance and monitoring systems, you're able to understand when there's a shift. You might not understand immediately why there is a shift, but you can monitor that shift and do something about it. And that comes with having skilled and trained team members for monitoring and implementing and securing the stuff, right? So if you're an organization, the first thing that you want to do is having that capacity built in your teams, in your organization, and then start building the systems and then securing it. And also, depending on how high risk your system is, going back to the earlier conversation, be prepared to push the stop button. If in case of an emergency, if your system requires it, there should be a stop button, as in, okay, we're gonna stop, and if this goes and we don't know what happened to our system, to our model, and it's coming up making all these decisions or producing all these outputs, you might be managing an energy infrastructure with this model. You might be managing a voting system. You might be managing a health, a system that is making health decisions like surgery systems, etc. So if you just keep that drifting, you're probably going to put more people at risk. So just having those safety, not only security, but safety, what would be the word? Procedures in place and stops in place is also important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are really good tips. I can see. I think it's right now 5:36 right now. So I would probably have time for one more question. And for this one, this last question probably comes from one of our internal data scientists. I can see because it's RMDS related. So the question is, as one of the greatest data science platforms, RMDS Lab also wants to contribute to the AI ethics topic. That is why we're holding this webinar today. Besides this webinar, Merve, what would you suggest RMDS Lab can do to continue our effort in AI ethics? Just some general suggestions or would be good.
RMDS, I mean, you guys are running a lot of data competitions. You're contributing to academic work as well. I think one good practice would be, having just like some of the conferences, big conferences are now requiring, and some of the journals are looking to require this, having an ethics and impact statement for the project that they're submitting to conference. It might be an interesting thing to require that, even only at a practice level, not required for official reasons, but helping these data scientists, helping the practitioners to build that muscle of, okay, if I'm doing this this project, if I'm going into this data competition, or if I'm starting this research, how do I go about doing an ethics or impact assessment, and helping the data scientists that are associated or working with our MDS lab would be helpful. So, if you're helping a whole group of practitioners build that skill and build that muscle. And also, I don't know if RMDS is already doing this, but helping the data scientists on how to best document the provenance of data sets and managing documentation is also crucial. I want to highlight this, especially with the EU regulation, proposed EU regulation. There's technical documentation and data technical documentation around data sets, not only the models but the data sets as well, is required when the proposed legislation goes through. So I think, again, building those skills with the people that you're connected would be very helpful.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestion. I already took some of the notes down so I can deliver it to our, my internal colleagues. Yeah, if no one else has any more questions, I think our time is almost up. Thanks again, Murphy, for bringing all your great thoughts and comments to these questions. I think a lot of these questions are really important to our times and even to the future. And I'm really glad that I just heard and learned a lot from you today. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here as well. Christy, I think in terms of conversation, we're almost down. Is there anything you want to mention at the end?
Just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Merve. Thank you so much, Mo. We really appreciate both of you guys speaking for us and sharing all of your insight, your expertise with us. So thank you two so much. And thank you, everyone, for joining. You will, again, make sure you don't miss out on the code for 20% off. It is in the chat box. Make sure you do take advantage of that code, 20% off. Those are only for those who participated in the event. So super exciting. We're super excited to have everyone here. And thank you again, Merve and Mo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.